Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining me and my very special guest. She is one of New York's favorites. You know her from such shows as Chicago, Jekyll and Hyde, Irving Berlin's White Christmas, and from her sensational nightclub engagements. And tonight, Thursday, January 14th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, she kicks off her brand new concert called To New York with Love as part of the Radio-Free Birdland series produced by Birdland in association with BroadwayWorld. Please say hello to my dear friend, Haley Swindal. How are you?
I'm so happy to see you. I'm so happy to see you, Richie. Thank you so much for doing this. And I am so excited about the show tonight. Oh my goodness.
Oh my God. I love your backdrop.
Thank you. It is my bedroom. Also my working space, also my living room. It's all the things in quarantine.
I love it. First off, how are you and where are you?
I'm in New York City. I have been here. My family went down to my family's farm for about 4 months, and then we came back to New York City in July. So we've been here since then. My daughter's in school here. So when school started back up again, she's in nursery school. So she's been in school. So we're here. We're in the city. My husband is working remotely. I'm working remotely, and we're in the apartment. So we've been here since July. Since I went home when Broadway closed in March. So I was in Florida, March to July. I missed New York so much. I was so happy to be home. I was counting down the days. So thrilled to be here, even if I am going just between my daughter's school and home. It's just great to be back in the city.
Because I was going to say, it's been 10 months since the New York theater shut down. It's like 300 and something days. I keep losing count of the days. It's like, how has your daughter been dealing with? Because how old is Lily?
She's 4. You just try and keep them safe, and you try and make it feel normal, right? And they don't know any different. I mean, children are amazing, right? Wearing a mask is like, okay, put on your shoes, put on your socks, put on your mask. It's like adults need some lessons from the kids. She's completely normal with it now. She loves it. And we did some fun things. My best friend lives up in Westchester for Halloween. I bought Easter eggs, and we just trick-or-treated we didn't trick-or-treat, but we hunted for Easter eggs and Halloween eggs. And then she was like, it's the best Halloween ever. She just didn't know any different. We didn't go trick-or-treating, but we hunted for Easter eggs. Weirdest thing ever. You just make it work. We're just trying to make it work and keep everybody safe. And she's doing okay. She's learning how to do Zoom, which is strange for a 4-year-old on Zoom, but she knows it better than me. She knows the mute button and how did you do that? She's like, oh, this, Mom.
It's funny. I've been talking to so many stars that have kids during this pandemic, and the kids have been adapting better than some of the adults have been adapting to all of this.
It's amazing. It's amazing how she can work the computer. She can go, oh, here, Mommy, I'm going to turn the volume up on and unmute myself. How do you know what you're for? You're literally 4 years old, and I don't even know how to unmute myself. I'll be talking in a meeting, and they'll be like, you got to unmute.
Yeah. Well, you've done a lot of singing or some singing during the pandemic. I know you did a gorgeous God Bless America for the Yankees. So for our audience who may not know, your grandfather was, of course, George Steinbrenner. I got some of his posters behind me. I've got Applaud. I've got Seesaw. I've got George M. I've got a lot of his shows behind me. And of course, your grandmother, Joan. I mean, you've sung at Yankee Stadium before, but this must have been really special for you to do during the pandemic. Because did you do it on your farm? Did you shoot it there?
I actually shot it when we were in 2 weeks before we came back into the city. We rented a house up at a place called Brookmill Farm in not Hershey. Where was it in Pennsylvania? It was near, I forget, somewhere in Pennsylvania.
Somewhere fun near Hershey.
Some farm in Pennsylvania that I rented for 2 weeks before we could come back into New York. And I shot it there, and we came into the city for one day, recorded it in the studio, and then filmed it over that, which is how kind of everybody's been doing things, recorded the vocals and then did the visual. But it was really exciting because we doing a game there without having God Bless America. My grandfather instituted that right after 9/11 as a really important thing that is done every game, and to not have that safely was really, really bothering me. I said, I'll figure out a way to do it. We'll figure out a way to do it. And so we did. And my Susan Goulet, who is the technical director at Chicago, she helped, she filmed it. She was amazing. And Will Nunziata, he came down and directed the shoot. And it was fun. It was a totally great experience. I started singing. I did not want to sing at Yankee Stadium until I had a Broadway credit. I was like, I'm not going to do it until it's my own. I can get there on my own. And I did eventually, after my grandfather passed away, it was his dream. And I did it there. And I kept kind of coming back. And it oddly coincided around when I made my Broadway debut. So I've been doing it kind of on special occasions, like my grandfather's anniversary of his passing, or most recently my grandmother's birthday or something like that. That's when I'll come back and I'll do it, something that's kind of special to me. But more importantly than me, because I've really been trying to connect Broadway singers more so to the stadium, and I've brought in a lot of my friends who are currently starring in shows or in the ensemble of shows, because there are so many and so much amazing talent to sing more live anthems. And I've been pushing for that because there's so much talent, as we know, in New York City. And so I've brought in a couple of my friends, like my friend Crystal Kellogg, who was in Finding Neverland, my friend Lauren Blackman, who was in Anastasia. I've been pulling in a lot of live talent. My friend Anastasia, who is one of the other Mama Mortons. So I've been really trying to get as much live talent as possible to the stadium. I think New York is a wealth of talent, as we know, and as much performances as possible at the stadium. If people who want to do it, try and do that.
Is it surreal
to do it in the stadium?
Sitting there, yeah. I mean, I know you were brought up there, but I'm like, because I've watched a lot of your clips of singing, the times you've done it. I'm like, she's like Preston says, she's got these like leather lungs. She is perfect and hits these high notes. Is it like crazy? Like, please don't crack.
You know what it is? For me, there is a picture of my grandfather in the outfield where he's like, and it's actually the same face I make when I'm disgruntled in life, whether I'm like producing or whatever. And I call it the don't F up face. I won't use the profanity, but when I look at the don't F up face, and I'm like, don't F it up. And it just kind of gets me through the number. It is, to me, I always describe it as, because I'm a person who always gets, Jana Robbins, who's a dear friend of mine. She always said, turn your nervousness into adrenaline and use it to fuel your performance. And that's kind of something I've always done as well. I kind of look at it as, okay, well, this can either go really great or really, really badly. And I really don't want to go with the repercussions if it goes badly. So that's kind of what I look at the don't F up face. I think about what it is I'm going to do, and I do it. But it really is a different feeling, because for me, I'm trained in theater. I'm trained as an actor first. So to go out there where it's just your voice with no band under you, nothing, it's very exposing, but it's also really beautiful because you can hear everyone singing along with you. And there's an echo, which to some freaks some people out, but to me it's like, oh, that sounded okay. Okay, all right, I'm okay, I'm good. And I don't sound as bad as I thought. Okay, and I kind of keep going and pushing through it. It's an exciting experience to me. I always talk about it like being on the edge of a roller coaster is what it feels like. To me, I've always said, the scariest thing to do is either perform in a stadium like that or in a super, super intimate, like 12 people. Like, and a Broadway audience for me is like, okay, that's like what I'm used to 1,000 people, whatever. But 55,000 in a stadium, where you're in the center and there's no accompaniment, or 12 people,
It's your living room. It's just much bigger.
The two, I don't know why. I guess I'm just used to the theater, right? So
I love it. Well, we have to say, tonight, Thursday, January 14th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you will be in the spotlight with your brand new concert called To New York with Love, as part of the new Radio Free Birdland series, which is produced by Birdland in association with BroadwayWorld. How excited are you?
I'm really excited, and I'm really grateful. I was just I always come up with a new show when I feel like there's something to say. When I feel I don't just kind of throw out, because I'm so busy I was busy doing Mama Morton. I produce as well. But I really felt like I wanted to say something about what's been going on in New York, how much I love this city, how the theater community has become my family, what a hard time it's been, and that how resilient the theater community is and how much I love everyone in it. And so I wrote this show, and together with Will Nunziata and Scott Cady, my musical director, who is one of the musical directors over at Chicago, we came together and we created this show. And Jim Caruso at Birdland was very, very welcoming and wonderful, and Gianni, and they gave us the space to do it. And I'm very, very grateful. And the show itself, I really wanted it to be a benefit for the Actors Fund, which is what it is, because that's just such an amazing organization. It's near and dear to my heart. And for me right now to do something, I really want it to be for a reason and to create good, because New York needs some good right now. And that's what I'm doing. And it's really a love letter about New York, like it says. I ended up filming it 2 days after Biden won the election. So, it opens with Happy Days Are Here Again, the first part of that, which I always say that there's kind of a similarity between the FDR. That was the FDR campaign song, and there's just some similarities there. So I open with that, and then I go into New York State of Mind. And throughout it, I mean, it isn't all just New York, New York, New York, New York. It's not that. It's the experience for me, and it's more of a mood of, there are New York songs in it, of course, like this theme tune from Arthur, and I even sing New York, New York, but there's a lot of that in there. But it also is the experience of what my experience of it is of falling in love with and falling in love in New York City, and what songs evoke those memories and things for me. And there's also an original song in there that I wrote. And so it's just kind of, it was really written for this. And it was an assignment that was totally different for me. And I think a lot of artists have probably said this to you, going in there and doing it for 3 cameras. No audience. You sit there and you're like, okay, how hard can this won't feel so different. And then you finish your first number and it's like dead silence. Okay, all right, I guess that was all right. You just keep going, and you're talking, and who are you talking to? You're just talking to because it's not really a film assignment. I've done film and television. It's not a film assignment. It's its own totally different thing. And so it was a very different assignment for me. And but Ryan at Birdland and Jim were so warm and very welcoming, and I had a great team, and Susan and Will, my creative. It was a really wonderful experience. And Scott it's just Scott and I. I've always had a band, but because of COVID, it was so amazing. The intimacy. Scott is like a band of 10. Because he's played with Barbara Cook, he has played with BB. I mean, he's played with everybody. So working with him and finding that intimacy was so beautiful. I mean, he's amazing. I mean, it was overwhelming working with him in there, and I'm really grateful that he was willing to do it and be a part of it, and because he really is part of my Chicago family. So getting to reconnect with him after, it's been hard. I've missed them. It was special.
It must be, because everyone I've spoken to who has done one of these said the mindset was sort of like, oh, I think I could do this. And the first number happens, like you said, and it's like crickets, because you're so used to playing off an audience. So some people said, well, I took it back like I was doing a 1950s television special in a studio without an audience, like Sinatra or Jack Jones or, all the great, Lena Horne or anybody would do. But it was just so different, especially like, you're used to it now. The people who were doing this early on were like, oh my God, I'm wearing gloves, a mask. I mean, we're sort of used to this all now. And like you said, the mask has become second nature. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure, like, what was the day like for you, like packing up your gowns and bringing everything over? And it's like, don't touch this, don't touch that. I got to wash my hands. Like, what was that prep day like at Birdland?
Well, I didn't get ready there. I got ready at my house, just because there was a show ahead of me that was filming, and I didn't want to put stress on them and everybody. I think everybody was feeling nervous about, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get ready. Yeah. I'll get into the gown before I get there, hopefully I'll be okay in an Uber. It'll be fine. So I walked in down 44th Street in my red sparkle gown with my with my mask on, and I went in high heels. It was like a rainy day. People looked at me like I was nuts, because you don't really see a lot of people in gowns these days walking down the street. I mean, I walked in ready. I was ready, and I was ready to go. And that's how I wanted to be. I felt safer that way. I think everybody else felt safer that way, just not having I didn't want to, I wanted to be ready. I think because I knew that it was going to be a different assignment, the more that I could control ahead of time, because so much is out of our control right now. And, you know, everything from, I normally work with a wireless microphone, but there was a wired, I knew there was going to be a wired microphone, which is, I'm going to be like Judy Garland throwing the mic, you know, the wired mic behind me. I didn't do that, but, you know, I was like having nightmares about how I've never worked with a wire. And that really is a really different thing if you haven't done it. It ended up being completely fine, but it was just, there were a couple of different things. So all of the molecules that I could control, I tried to control ahead of time, and got there ready. And really, like in 20 minutes of being there, boom, I was on stage. We didn't really even have a tech. We ran like 2 numbers and go. So
I love your mindset of being as prepped as you can be before you get into a situation. That's really great. What a great like lesson for people who are entertainers. Like to walk in, especially now, to walk into a place as prepared as you possibly can be. So whatever is thrown at you, like, oh, I can deal with that, and just brush it off.
Right. Because there's only so much we can control, right? Especially, I mean, I think that's been a big lesson for me in the last 10 months is like, there's only so much I can control, and I can only do what I can do. So I have to do the best at what I can do, which was create the best show that I can create safely. Everyone around me feels safe, and create the best product that is hopefully meaningful, and that raises a good amount of money for the Actors Fund. And
okay, we're going to talk about that. But first I want to go back to this original song. I cannot wait. Is songwriting something you've always done or wanted to do, or this was a very special thing that came easy for you to write this original song for this show?
Well, I write. It was something that I have that was written that I have never performed. Right. So it was written when I first met my husband, but why it's being performed now is when it was written, I was teaching myself the guitar. I was doing a show up at North Shore Music Theater, and there's a woman at North Shore Music Theater who became my one of my very, very best friends. And during COVID, she got very sick early on. Her name's Karen, and she was on a ventilator for 30 something days, and she lost her husband to COVID, very sadly. They were very, very close friends by just the people in life. There are people in life that show up for you no matter what. And they are those people. And they're just very, very meaningful to me. And the song is about, I can't control what is happening around me, but know that I will hold your hand in the rain. The song's called I'll Hold Your Hand in the Rain. Yeah. I can't stop the storm and I can't stop the pain, but I can promise you that I'll hold your hand in the rain. And that's what the song says and means. And it's just now it has a totally different meaning. And so it's kind of the end of the show for me. It's dedicated to Karen, but it's also about everybody who's lost someone and is just trying to carry on, or anybody who's just trying to get through the day. Because right now, getting through the day for some of us is a win. Just getting from point A to point Z and just getting through this time is a win. And that's just kind of what the song is about, is being there for each other. We can't control what's happening. It's just, if everybody could just be there for each other, from just putting on a darn mask on our face, the world would just be a better place if it was full of kindness and love. And that's kind of what the song is about. And it's dedicated to Karen, who is doing amazing, by the way. She is a beacon of light for everyone. Yeah. And so that's the song. And it's the first time I've really debuted it in this kind of way. And in terms of writing, I'm a writer that I have the discipline of a producer. I have the discipline of a performer. When it comes to I have so much respect for writers, because to me, I have to really something has to come to me. I can't just sit there and write. I'm not that kind of writer. I don't know how people do that. I don't have that discipline. But when something comes to me, I write. I'm working on a script right now with some writers in London that I'm helping. So there's certain things that I do and do right. But I've written a few songs in my life. I'm doing more and more writing. I'm doing more and more reflecting during this time, because I've had the time to slow down and do that. But this is the first, probably the most meaningful song to me, and I'm really excited to share it with people. Okay,
we have to give a big shout out to Karen, because I'll tell you why. Preston and I fell in love with Karen the night of Over Here that you did, of course, with that incredible cast, including Mark William. That's why we were all...
He's amazing, Mark William.
Oh, he's doing so good, but we were all there that night, and we fell madly in love with Karen. Now, I cannot pronounce Karen's last name.
Nassim Benny.
Fabulous. And her husband's name?
Stephen Richard.
who is in heaven right now. But seriously, big shout out to them. And thank you for writing the song in their honor. But we fell in love with Karen that night at Over Here. And I just love that you're giving, you're donating everything from this concert to the Actors Fund. The Actors Fund and like Broadway Cares, they were hit really hard during this time period because they usually have fundraisers and galas and all of this stuff. And they couldn't, but they've been doing these virtual ones, or, performers like you who are donating your proceeds to them, which means the world to them. And I just want to give you a big thank you to you for donating your proceeds from this concert to the Actors Fund.
I'm doing what I can. I mean, I think they are incredible. They have done so much for so many. And, early on in the pandemic when I couldn't sing, I hadn't figured out a ring light. I was a little late to get on board with all of this. I was down on a farm in Ocala, in Ocala, Florida. I was doing, it was all over my Facebook that I was making tie-dye for people. And that was kind of the first thing that I did. And it became like, I probably made 200 tie-dyes. And instead of charging people, I said, make a donation to the Actors Fund. And so that was kind of the first thing that started, and I made some good money for them doing that. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm really a singer. I'm not a tie-dye person. This isn't going to become a thing, because it started to like really take off. And then I got back into New York, and my husband was like, you can't really tie-dye in our New York City apartment. It's not really going to work out so well with the white carpets. So I was like, okay.
Jack. Shout out to Jack.
I was not happy, but he's probably right.
Yeah.
Tie-dye's messy. So I was like, well, what can I do now to do this? And so that we came up with the show. But the Actors Fund is an incredible organization. Yeah. My husband's actually on the board with them, and I've loved them for forever. So it's an honor for me to do this, actually.
I love it. Jack is like, no tie-dye in New York. You got to sing. That's how you got to raise money. I love it. So, well, again, tonight, Thursday, January 14th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Haley will be in concert with her new show, To New York with Love. I love the title, as part of the new Radio Free Birdland series produced by Birdland in association with Broadway World. Tickets are available at Broadway World events. Haley, I want to go back to the beginning. Growing up, where did your love for the theater begin, and what were your earliest creative outlets?
Oh my gosh. From the time I was little, I was always singing. I grew up, as you know, in a baseball family. So they would be watching baseball games, and I would be on the staircase belting Don't Cry for Me, Argentina. And they'd be like, Haley, but it's been as long as I can remember, my whole life. But my parents really did, and my grandparents instilled in me a love of Broadway. My grandfather, he was in Glee Club at Williams College. He said Stephen Sondheim was in it, but Stephen Sondheim said he wasn't in Glee Club. So I don't really know that they were there at the same time, which is really interesting to me that George Steinbrenner and Stephen Sondheim were at the same college at the same time. I found that very interesting, and I'd love to talk to Mr. Sondheim about that at some point. But they weren't both. My grandfather was in Glee Club and had an amazing voice. And his whole life in theater, I was exposed to theater. When I was in New York City with him, I would go into Feinstein's and see like Keely Smith and Barbara Cook perform. From the time I was a little girl, I was like Eloise at the Plaza. I was just, at the Regency. Yeah. So I would go and see those shows from the time I was a little girl. I didn't know what they were singing about, but I was just like captivated, right? And we have an amazing art center in Tampa that my grandparents were very involved with. So I would go see, Jekyll and Hyde. The first show I believe I ever saw on Broadway was The Secret Garden, which is why Lily is named Lily. And I fell in love with it it's always been a part of me. And it's funny. I was just born with it. And I'm really the only person in my family that's pursued it. My grandfather, of course, was a singer, but it's always been in my family because he produced. I mean, he produced on Broadway. He won a Tony for Applause with the Nederlanders. I grew up around that Seesaw, all those shows. I grew up knowing that the theater was around, that it was always a possibility. I've always been in love with it, and really, I fell in love doing plays. I started doing plays, and then when I guess was in middle school and high school, I started getting cast. But I always had this ambition in me. Like when I got to college even, I had this little side job, and I would save all my money. And I was not in a school where I wasn't in a conservatory. I was an academic nerd. So I double majored in theater history and minored in theater and American history and minored in Japanese. So I was like all over the map. But I would use all the money I earned in the summer. I would like skip class during the day, spend money to fly to New York City to go to an audition, an open call, come back in time for rehearsal. So I wouldn't I'd miss class, but I'd be back in time for whatever rehearsal. So, I mean, I've just always had this drive in me to do it. I remember, freshman year of college, if I was in town with my family for baseball, I'd go to the open calls and I'd just sit there. I'd be like, see you guys later. I might be at the baseball game. I might not. And I'd sit there for like 9 hours. And I almost booked at one point Glenda in Wicked when they were doing it in Japan. At one point they were doing it. And I sat there for like, I was like probably 19, 18, was just a freshman. And I sat there, you know, for 5-6 hours to sing like 8 bars. I think I brought my senior picture from high school, you know, it was so, but that's how I learned. I learned. And then eventually I did Cap 21 in the summers. And thank God by the time I got to New York, I knew what I was doing. But I really had this drive in me to do this. And I always have. I don't know where really it's come from, but I've also always been able to sing. But I knew that I wanted to be able to act and for me to focus. For me, I've always been an actor who sings. That's been the priority. And I really focused on studying acting as a craft in high school and college and becoming an actor who sings, because who cares if you can sing if you can't.
I love that. Okay, well, we have to talk about Broadway debuts, because Broadway debuts are really important. They're very special. And many people were supposed to make theirs this spring, and then the pandemic hit. And I hope when the theater comes back bigger and better than ever, they'll have that opportunity. You made yours in Jekyll and Hyde.
I did.
What do you remember about that? Was it a matinee? Was it an evening? What's your memory?
Okay, so I went on I had toured the country for 9 months. I was the dance captain, which is really funny because I'm an actor who sings and can move. So the fact I'm a dance captain on anything is kind of funny. But I can dance, but it's an interesting choice. I enjoyed Jekyll and Hyde and had a great Jeff Cahoon, great, amazing director, had an amazing time doing that show. Constantine Maroulis, Deborah Cox, toured the country for 8 months. That was a really, I was a swing, which hardest job I've ever done in the business. I don't care what swinging a Broadway show. I covered all of the women. And like some days I'd go on for 1 a.m. and 1 at night. My brain, and then I would be the dance captain, so I'd give all the notes and help keep the show together. And I have tremendous respect for. I think it's the hardest job in the business. Don't know if I could do it again. It's oh my God, I've never worked harder.
That's a lot of tracks to know.
Oh my, I was like, but and then I got into New York City, and at one point, we didn't run very long, right? We were only here for a short amount of time. Deborah Cox had one night off because she was singing at a benefit. And so Emmy Raver Lampman, who is now the star of Umbrella Academy, who from day one, I was like, because I watched everybody every night. I was like, you're a star. Just know that you're a star. She was like, really? I was like, yes, you're a star. And I called it. I always say, I called it. She's a genius. I love Emmy. But anyways, she went on for Lucy, and she was incredible. And so I went on for her. And I just remember I was like, you know, it was during Facade, which I don't even remember how it goes, but I was like a maid or something in a corset. I don't know. It's like, and I walked out and with like 5 other women, and I got entrance applause because by that point, everybody who had seen it and it wasn't doing well. And all my people came. And I think I probably had like 400, 500 people there. And I got entrance applause on my little maid line. I mean, it was so exciting. And Constantine was like, you got entrance applause. I was like, I did. And it was really magical. The fact that I got to go on a Broadway stage after all the time, because there was a chance that I might not have gotten to go on at all. And after touring for 8 months, which I took the job, at that point I toured four times in 5 years. I was like, I want to be in New York. I want to be in New York. I want to settle down. You know, I took it because I knew it was coming into Broadway and that I would have a chance for my Broadway debut. So the thought I might not get to go on was like, but I did, and I was really grateful for that. And it was magical. It was really, really, really great. And that night, we all went to the Marquee, and I had probably a few more drinks than I should have. But it was a fun night.
You know, it's funny. I didn't realize you named your daughter Lily after The Secret Garden. The interesting thing is you got to play Alice in the Manhattan concert production, that fabulous star-studded production. Wow. How magical was that night for you being a part of The Secret Garden?
Oh my God, it was so magical. And I was pregnant with Lily when that happened. I was 6 months pregnant, 5 months pregnant, something like that. I loved being a part of that production. Oh my gosh, Sierra, I mean, all of them. What an incredible cast, just to be any part of it or be in the room. It was such a learning experience for me. It's not a show that I traditionally have been cast in. So to be a part of it was incredible. And it was the first show I ever saw on Broadway. Marsha and Lucy, I'm a huge fan of. My flower girls marched down the aisle to come to my garden. The show's a huge part of my husband's life. So it's a show that's super, super special. So to do that was absolutely magical. And I called Lily because she was literally with me in that production. Her name is Lily George. I mean, my grandfather was my biggest, my grandparents were my best friends. And my grandma was still alive at the time. And so it's Lily George after my grandfather. Really the first Broadway show I ever saw.
That's great. Well, now we have to get into Chicago because you stepped into Mama Morton in the hit musical Chicago numerous times. I mean, what does that role and that show mean to you? You know, Chicago is one of my favorites. I saw Cheetah and Gwen and Jerry Orbach numerous times in the original. I got to see Liza when she went in for that little, I had bought a ticket and they're like, oh my God, we got she was in it. So it's like, but it's one of my favorite musicals. It's Candor and Ebb. It's Bob Fosse. I mean, what's your Chicago life like? I mean, what's it been like doing that show?
I love it. I love the family. I love being a part of the family. I first went in, when I first auditioned, they were kind of trying to figure out where to put me because I am kind of the youngest Mama Morton I am the youngest Mama Morton in history. And I auditioned for Mama, and then the producers had seen me in another show and they were like, well, maybe she's a Roxy. And I was like, okay. So I trained for a bunch of months. I ended up coming in and they're like, well, she's really great. I worked really hard on the dance. She can dance it, but she's not really a Roxy. And then my agents kind of circled around and said, remember, go back to her Mama tapes, go back to her Mama tapes. But she was young so they came in and watched them. And Barry is, an amazing and very loyal producer, Barry and Fran and Alicia, the whole office. And they ended up watching the tapes and they're like, you know what? Let's give it a go. And so, they're always very open. So they gave me 2 weeks to see kind of what they do. They give you to see how it goes. And 2 weeks became, over 100 shows in a year. It became more and more and more. And they've been amazing. They are really wonderful producers and really loyal producers. And it's a really amazing company and group of people. I've gotten to work with so many great people, and it's I've worked with like Six Rocks, Desi Oakley and Charlotte, and I mean it's so amazing. And Amara Faye Wright and Lana Gordon as Velma. It's a wonderful exercise in learning to work with different people, because you might have somebody on one night, like 4 different Velmas in 3 weeks, because there's so many companies, and they're so great at figuring out how to keep it running after all these years. It's an amazing show. I love being a part of it. But I remember there wasn't much rehearsal time because they had this block for whatever reason. I think Natasha, who is one of their mamas, who's incredible, Natasha Williams, had something else. She was in waitress or something. And I was coming in and I had very little rehearsal. And I think I met the cast on the stage by, I literally met them when I was going on. I mean, it was like, okay, go on the stage. There was no put in. I went on. I'd met Amara the week before. Yeah. But I met most of the cast that night when I sang Mama on the stage, and they were all around, which, by the way, is way more intimidating than performing. It's like these people that are like, it's the Broadway cast of Chicago, which to me has always represented Broadway. I mean, those and they're all around, and I'm like, oh my God, it's Amara Faye Wright. She's on every bus in New York City, and here she is, looking at me. But it was magical. They were so supportive and so great. I adore them, and they kept asking me back, which I'm really grateful for. Yeah, and
I love that.
There's been a couple of funny stories. Like literally, I met Charlotte Bois. Like I was in the scene, I was like, Mama slaps her butt, and I was like, I'm so sorry we had to meet that way. It's like I introduced myself after the scene because sometimes she was in and I was in and we had crossed paths, and that was the first time we met. It was the scene. So there's a lot of I've met a lot of amazing people doing that show. I love it. Ryan Lowe, who's been Mary Sunshine there for many years. I mean, it's just a great group of people.
Did you also do Jesus Christ Superstar with the legendary Ted Neely?
I did. That was my first job. Right out of school. I booked, I understudied Mary Magdalene, and then I played the role of Bunch when I was on the tour. I didn't book the role because I was about 3 inches taller than Ted. I'm taller than Ted, so it wasn't going to work out for me. But I did get to go on with him, which was super magical. And he really taught me a lot, actually, about how to treat company members, how to be a leader of a company, and just on stage and off, and how to be just a classy person. I mean, he knew everybody's name, every dresser. I mean, he was just a really class act. And I think starting with him on a show really, really taught me that. I mean, there were 2 really people early on in my career that taught me, you know, how to really lead a company. It's him, and also Sally Struthers is another one who has been, you know, amazing. I mean, when I worked with her early on in my career, how she.
What did you do with Sally?
I did Annie with Sally. Sally, I was Grace, and she was Hannigan with Brad Oscar as Daddy Warbucks. It was a really fun production in Atlanta.
Oh,
and she was just a class act. I mean, she knew everybody's name from the elevator operator and she just really, to me, encapsulated what it is to be a leading lady, and to just to show up and to set an example of how to be a good person, and to do good work on stage and be consistent and show up every single day and be present. So.
You know, it's so funny because one night I was at Joe Allen, and we were having dinner, and Sally Struthers was there with some friends, and they were all like, "Oh my God, you're doing Dolly." She literally got up from the table and started to do Before the Parade Passes By. Joe Allen Dinner Theater. It was so magical to watch her. She just got up and did a little bit of it for her friends at the table and for all of us in the restaurant. I said, "That's how it's done."
Exactly. She's old school. I love her. I'm not surprised. I love that.
Now, is a dream show of yours Dan Yankees?
I love Damn Yankees.
Yeah.
I have I love it. I love it. I've been dreaming of, I think I would be more on the producing end of it. Yes. So down the road.
Where would you see this happening? Did you have a dream of having Damn Yankees done in a very, very big stadium somewhere?
Down the road, I would love to see Damn Yankees live in Yankee Stadium. I think it would be amazing. And down the road, I'd love to see that dream become a reality. But we'll see. I mean, you know, I'm always looking into possibilities, and I will keep you posted on all of those possibilities. I'm always, as this pandemic has happened, I have looked into some producing things, and we'll see. We'll see.
Could you imagine Damn Yankees being done with a fabulous cast at like Yankee Stadium?
I would love that. Look, I'm open to anything. I mean, I definitely think it's time. I love the show. I think it's a genius show. It's time for a Damn Yankees. I love Damn Yankees. And I mean,
it's out there now at BroadwayWorld. It's out there into the world right now.
I'm going to put it out there into the world, and we'll see what happens. Look, I'm getting more and more involved in producing, and ultimately that is my dream project. So we'll see what happens with that down the road. But it also belongs on a Broadway stage.
Yeah.
So
it would be nice for a weekend at Yankee Stadium.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Totally.
You know,
is one of your favorite roles Sally Bowles in Cabaret?
Yes, I loved playing Sally Bowles. I love Candor and Ebb. Jalen Robbins and I were voted one of the best cabaret shows in 2018 by Jazz, because I just think they capture, and Sally Bowles is the classic example, strength and vulnerability in women, like unapologetically strong women who make their own choices, but are also vulnerable, and they're not perfect. And Sally is one of those, and I loved playing her. I loved painting my nails green. I did it like 2 weeks after. I mean, I was young. I was like right out of school. I painted my nails for like 2 weeks afterwards. I was like, okay, we got to let this go now. You know? But I loved playing Sally. I did it down at the Jersey Shore when I was right out of school. And I did it in college. And I loved that show. I love the show in general. I love the music in the show. It's just a special, it's a special role.
Yeah. Well, you know, you've also dabbled in film. You did the live action version of Anastasia, right?
I did. I starred opposite Brandon Routh, who was, he's amazing. He was the Superman in the last movie. It was shot up in Newport, Rhode Island, with also the young girl who was the younger Wonder Woman in the Wonder Woman movie. She played Anastasia. It was an amazing experience, and it taught me a lot because it was super fast. We only had a few days of filming to get in, like a lot of filming. And it was everything that you would expect like filming to be when you hear about what filming is, whereas in like, hi, I met Brandon, and then all of a sudden he's dying in my arms, like that's the first scene, as opposed to like doing the first. It's always shot out of sequence, but really the death scene happening first is like everything that you hear about film where you're like, it's out of sequence. It's like, okay, he's gonna die in your, hi, nice to meet you. Okay, what's happening? Oh, they're killing. It was a very interesting experience. But I love working with it, and it's done pretty well. It's on all the streaming platforms now, and Donna Murphy was in it as well. Yeah. She was like the sorceress. She was incredible. So I had never really connected with her, and it was really nice to get to meet her and actually watch her work. She's fascinating and such a talent. And working with her was really, really, really special. And I really enjoyed it. It was in Newport in one of the beautiful mansions there, and it was shot there, and it was really special.
The Zarina, right?
Zarina Romanoff. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Fabulous. Because I looked at pictures of you like, wow, that's got to have been, to do a movie, like to do a big epic movie like that, to do the costumes, going back to like when you met Charlotte Dembois, it's like, I'm slapping her on the ass. I'm like, movies are the same way. It's like, hello, I'm Haley. Hello, I'm Brandon. Now let's do your death scene.
I know. It's just real. It's first hair, you're like, I am your hair, makeup, blah, blah, then go, and so much, and a lot of it is like, waiting around and then all of a sudden you're just into it. And then maybe it's 2 or 3 in the morning, and some of the scenes were in the snow and you're in a short sleeve dress. And it's very interesting, the differences between film and theater. But I have learned to love film and television, but I really am a theater girl at heart.
Yeah. You've done so many wonderful shows, reviews. You did the off-Broadway musical, This One's for the Girls. You're starring with the likes alongside of Jana Robbins and, of course, Jennifer Diamond. What was it like doing that musical?
And Anissa Folds, who was just freestyle. He's done great there. I loved that show. It was about female empowerment and really, really amazingly wonderful. And that's how I've gotten to know Jana. And we have done a lot of producing together. We produced 2 shows in London together. We're working on some really, really exciting projects here right now. Revival, which I will tell you about as soon as I can, and like some really, really exciting stuff. And it all came from that show. Yeah. And some of my best friend Jennifer Diamond, some amazing, amazing talent in that little show at St. Luke's, right? And I'm just really grateful for that show. And it was just about really female empowerment and standing in your own power and accepting who you are and what comes to you and being a good person. I love doing that show. I loved it. And Jana was terrific in it. I got to do this song, It Must Be Him, with a telephone that was
Vicky Carr.
I know. And it was like, I was this nerd with these big glasses that was like obsessive, which I kind of played those roles kind of well, like kind of too well. And it was just fun to get into my comedic side, because I do have that quirky kind of Judy Holliday side to me, like quirky, funny thing going on. So to get to do that was really fun. And it was great. It ran for over a year. And I was so sad to hear that St. Luke's is potentially closing, but I'm hoping that it doesn't happen. I loved it. And I met so many, Anissa, Tracy, like everybody I met in that show has gone on to do amazing, continue to do amazing things, from Jennifer to Anissa. Everybody. So
Jennifer's become a mom too. Jennifer,
I know. I'm so happy for her, and she does her own thing in the cabaret world as well.
She's out here doing her thing. Speaking of mothers, I've spoken to a lot of people during this pandemic. Just how has being a mom changed the way you look at your life and your career?
Okay, that's a really good question. For me, I have really stayed rooted in New York because she's here and my husband is here. And it's changed the way I've looked at my career, because my career has gotten better because it's less important. She's the center of my world. It used to be everything in my life when I was young, when I was in my 20s, was all about, what about this audition? And what about this callback? And obsessing about, when am I going to hear about this? And why didn't these people call me in for this? And why didn't I get this audition? Constantly the noise, right? And the noise just kind of stopped, because at the end of the day, it's not that important. All the things that have happened in my life and the jobs that I've gotten and haven't gotten, there's been a reason. And when I look back on that, you know, if I had gotten, I was supposed to be in, I got a call that I was supposed to be in the revival of Les Mis, and then on the Monday, it wasn't going to happen. And I was so devastated about it. And for whatever reason, who knows, it happens until something's on paper. I was devastated. But if I had gotten that job, I would never have gone to Vegas to do the show I did with Jeff. I never would have met my husband. I never would have had Lily. So there's a reason to everything. And so I think, I mean, having a child puts that in perspective. She is the center of my world, my family, and she is incredible. And watching her learn and experience art and music has allowed me to kind of, as well, get out of my own head and really reconnect with the importance of what art and music is, and less about this audition, that audition. You know, it's not about that. It's about what art and music is and can be, and that when I'm going and doing a show, it might be somebody's first time, just like when Lily's when we go see whatever we went to see before the pandemic, Paddington, or, you know, whatever it was that she could see. She's not seeing Chicago, but, you know, that it might be somebody else's little kid's first time seeing that. It just kind of reinstates that for you, right?
Yeah.
And for me, just the importance of knowing that all that other noise, it isn't important. And when I stopped with that other noise, it kind of, all the other career stuff started coming to me in a different way.
Beautifully put. You know, now that the theater, you know, there's hope that the theater is going to open sooner. So what are your hopes for what you hope Broadway and the theater will look like or feel like when it comes back?
Well, I think that all the diversity and inclusion and all the stuff that is happening is really important. And I hope that we as a community take it really seriously, and that we continue to be, I mean, as a person who is white, there are a lot of things I don't know and that I can't know, but I'm trying to remain open and listen and learn. And I hope that just we all do that, and that we just continue to learn about what it is to be inclusive, color consciousness, and all of the things that are super important in our community to become a more embracive community. And I think that this pause, if there's anything that good that comes out of it, it will be hopefully that we're listening and listening a little bit more and being more open, and that some of those changes can be made. And so that's what I hope. And also that the arts continues to thrive. I mean, you look at the Spanish flu in 1918 and all of that, and what came out of that, the Roaring Twenties, right? Which was this huge explosion of art and blah blah blah. And I truly believe in my heart that the arts will be bigger and better than they ever have been because of what we've been through. People feel, I don't think even people who are not us, right, who are not in the arts, don't even realize how starved they've been of the arts until we're back. And then I think there will be an explosion of art and music and a need for this. And I'm excited for that, because I do believe that will happen.
Beautiful. Valentine's Day is right around the corner, and every Valentine's Day we ask Broadway performers and Broadway stars, do you have a favorite Broadway love song, and why?
Oh my gosh.
One of your favorites.
That's really hard. I love Till There Was You. From Music Man. I love that song. Probably that song is what sticks in my head right now, Till There Was You. I also love With So Little to Be Sure Of, even though it isn't like a really lovey-dovey song. It's kind of about, you know, people going separate ways, but I think it's a really beautiful love song from Anyone Can Whistle. But yeah, I there's so many. There's so many. Oh my goodness. Someone to Watch Over Me and My Funny Valentine. Oh, My Funny Valentine. That's another one. I can go on.
When I leave you, you're going to be like, oh my God, I have 16 more.
I have so many. My Funny Valentine. I mean, oh my God, I can't even think about it right now.
That's great. I love the choice.
It Had to Be You. It had to be you. That one. Yeah.
Isn't that in your show?
No. Oh, no, it's not. No, is
right.
It one from When Harry Met Sally? Yes, it is. Yes, it is in my show. Very small, 16 bars of it, because I have a movie medley which is starts with Arthur, It Had to Be You, and then Moon River. So there is a short little section of it.
I can't wait. Well, again, we're kicking into the show. Well, again, tonight, Thursday, January 14th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Haley will be in concert with her brand new show called To New York with Love as part of the radio-free Birdland series, which is produced by Birdland in association with Broadway World. Tickets are available at Broadway World Events. Just type in Haley's name, type in the name of her show, type in Birdland. I know where I'm going to be tonight. Haley, the time has flown by.
You're amazing. Thank you so much for having me. It's so great to reconnect. I miss you.
I miss you. I can't wait for the first time that we can hug each other again, right?
Oh, I know. I can't wait.
All right. Love to your daughter. Love to your husband. Everybody tune in tonight to watch Haley's concert. Take care, everybody. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
We're going to close out. We're closing out with a clip of you from your show, To New York with Love. Here we go.
Thank you. Bye.
At night the stars put on a show for free. And darling, you can share it all with me. I keep a telling you that right smack dab in the middle of town, I found a paradise that's trouble-proof. And if this world starts getting you down, there's room enough for two up on the roof.